Hello everyone, my name is Miss Ashley from Febo Kids Art Academy and welcome to another amazing art class. Today we're going to be learning about Da Vinci's The Vitruvian Man and we're going to be creating our own Vitruvian Man. For a list of supplies, be sure to check the description of this video. Let's go ahead and get started with learning a little bit more about that famous picture. Leonardo da Vinci's Vitruvian Man has both the area of a circle and the area of a square in its picture. The drawing, which is ink on paper, depicts a man in two superimposed positions with his arms and legs apart and inscribed in a circle and square. This represents Da Vinci's concept of the ideal human body proportions, called the golden proportion. Today, we will be creating our own Vitruvian Man. All right, so here is an example of our picture. Now you can change the person in the middle if you would like to. We are going to be making it spin though by using a brad, but you can change it to a male or female. But I'm just going to go ahead and put this to the side so we can start right away onto our project. Because the first thing that we are going to do is we do need to get this piece of paper here to be a yellowish brown color, because Da Vinci's Vitruvian Man was just a simple ink sketch just from some parchment paper, and so we want to mimic that style as well. So you're going to get some nice illustration paper or watercolor paper. And what we are going to be doing is we are going to be mixing some colors of yellow-orange and yellow and brown. So here's my water bucket with my watercolors. I'm going to get a lot of yellow-orange. And I'm just going to add it to my palette. And some yellow as well. And I would do a lot more orange, or excuse me, a lot more yellow than yellow-orange. Make sure you kind of just lather that up right into your palette. Now it does kind of look like macaroni and cheese colors, so we do want to add just a little bit of brown to that to make it look a little bit more parchment-like. And a lot of water as well. With watercolors, the more water you add, the lighter those colors will be. Now we have to paint this pretty quickly because if we keep adding water onto our paper, it can tear our paper, and we do want this to dry pretty quickly. So I'm just going to go ahead and just start painting with those up and down strokes. Now on my screen it might be a little bit hard to see by how light my color is, but I've got the ideal color that I need. And you're just going to paint that right onto your paper. Again, go as fast as you can so you can really spread that color around. I'm just going up and down. And it's okay if the lines are uneven. We do want it to be more like parchment, like it's been crumbled up and looks a little bit old. All right, almost done. If you need to make that mixture again, remember yellow-orange, or yellow-orange, yellow, and a little bit of brown. So it kind of looks like this wood texture almost. All right, I think I've got enough of that on. I just want to double check and make sure that I got everything filled up. Also just kind of take some of that on right there. All right, so here is my parchment looking paper. Again, pretty fast, pretty quick and easy. If you want to go a little bit darker, I suggest you do so. So I'm actually going to just make that mixture again and go back over it once more just to make sure that it looks a little bit darker. It's looking a little bit too light for my liking, so I can always go over and make another mixture. Oh, there we go. That looks a lot better. Again, go as fast as you can doing this, but don't go too fast that you do tear your paper. And again, it's okay if there is some unevenness to your painting. It's supposed to look like nice textured paper. I just almost splashed right all over me. Now my paper is starting to tear, which means I might be a little bit too rough with it. So do be careful as you paint your picture. But there we go. There's a nice little bit of a darker, nice ochre yellow color. All right, so here is my background for my Vitruvian Man. We do need to wait for this to dry. So what I am going to do is I'm just going to put this to the side and make sure that it's not in the area that I'm going to be working on my Vitruvian Man. So go ahead and put this to the side somewhere. We also need to clean up our table. So I'm going to go grab my cleaning supplies and put away my watercolors because we are actually done using our watercolors. So take that moment to clean up your area, make it nice and clean because we are going to be cutting and gluing and also drawing as well. We don't want any of that watercolor on our stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and clean up my area and I will be back with you shortly. So go ahead and press pause on your video. All right, so now that our area is nice and clean, we're going to go ahead and start cutting out some shapes. Remember that the Vitruvian Man has both a circle and a square overlapping each other. So what we're going to do first is we're going to be grabbing our piece of paper. Now my paper is already square right here, but if I were to take my watercolor paper, it isn't quite the right size. So I do need to make my square a little bit smaller. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my ruler and I'm going to measure to the corner down here. I'm going to measure 9 inches. So I'm going to make a little mark right here. I have to go up here to the very top and measure 9 inches as well. So that way I can have it nicely lined up and even. So I'm going to line up my ruler and I'm going to draw, whoops. Make sure you have a steady hand though. If you need help from a mom or dad or guardian, make sure you do so. So that's 9 inches. But right down here, I need to actually turn my paper over and I need to make it once again 9 inches by 9 inches. So down here, I measured it to 9, mark it right here, and go right here. Make sure that I measure it to 9 inches right here. And then I can go ahead and draw my straight line for my square. Again, a square is even on both sides. The base and the height are even. All right, so there is my square. We'll come back to this paper in a bit, but we're going to go ahead and cut out our perfect square. All right, just cutting along those lines. And you can also use this paper for something else, so don't throw that out unless you absolutely know you're not going to use it for anything. Always use it for a future art project. All right, so I'm just cutting out that square. And I'm going to put this scrap to the side so I can use it for something else. All right, so now that we have our perfect square, we now need to create a circle. This might be a little bit tricky, but for a Vitruvian Man, the square does not fit inside the circle. Instead, it actually kind of overlaps around those corners. So to use this as my guide, I like to kind of put my square right directly in the middle of my paper. And I like to just draw a rainbow above. Now I want to make sure it doesn't touch the corners, but wanting to make sure that it's about even on both sides. So if I were to measure this, it's about 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches on both sides. So I'm just going to line that up and draw that. That's a little bit hard to see, so I'm going to make sure that I can get right here. Turn that around, 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches. Draw that rainbow. Now, if you have a compass or something that is circular that's big enough to do this, you can definitely use that. I'm just going to go ahead and measure. And measure as well. Now that way you can go in and you can start to draw your circle. Now again, might not be completely even unless you have a compass. Unfortunately, I don't have a compass on me. So I'm just trying my best to draw my circle. All right, so there's my circle. My square should be able to overlap on top of it. If I were to scooch it down, I would have a little bit of those corners showing. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out my circle. All right, so if you are still maybe cutting out your square, or you're maybe grabbed a ruler, or still looking for a ruler, you can always press pause on your video. Now we're going to be using these circles and squares as a stencil, so definitely don't put them to the side quite yet, because remember, with a Vitruvian Man, we could fit both like a standing person with her arms stretched out in a square and one that looks like it's shouting hooray in a circle. So here is my circle. Ooh, it looks like I got to touch up on that little corner right there. You can try your best to make it nice and even on both sides. All around, and then our square. So in the end, our shape will look something like this. But what we're going to do next is we're going to be grabbing a lighter colored paper. This is kind of like my skin tone paper. This is where it's going to get kind of tricky. So I'd probably just sit back, watch for a little bit. Because what I am going to do is I'm going to take my square. Now my paper is fortunately 9 inches on the bottom already, but your paper might not be. But I'm going to be using my square as a stencil just to know how big my paper needs to be so I can draw my Vitruvian Man. So luckily, I've got a square already right there. I'm going to put my shapes to the side right there. And I am going to cut out, if I can find my scissors, there they are, they kind of scooted away from me. I'm going to cut out that square. Now we will be doing more cutting later, but this will just help to give us a good idea of how big our Vitruvian Man needs to be. All right. So the center of our square, which again, so half of 9 is 4.5. So I need to find that 4.5 right here. 4.5 here, and measure it right in the middle. So I'm going to draw very, very lightly on my paper, that nice line. I can always erase it later. And then same right here. I'm going to find 4.5 with my ruler and 4.5 with my ruler. I'm going to draw a straight line. And I should be able to find my belly button is right about there, like so. This is where I can start to draw my Vitruvian Man. So remember, the belly button is the middle part of our shape. So let me just zoom in a little bit so you can see how I'm going to be drawing this Vitruvian Man. So I'm going to draw a curved line here. And I'm also going to draw a curve up here and here. And straight line and curve down. I also have his head right here with the neck. Then I can add that hair. So this is going to be the top of his head. So I'm going to draw a wavy line and wavy line, because the Vitruvian Man had curly hair in his picture. So I'm trying to mimic that as best as I can. And then I'm going to go ahead and add the face. Now you can draw any kind of face you want. In fact, you can draw this a picture of yourself if you would like to. I'm just going to be adding those eyes, the nose, and the mouth. I'm going to come out here and out here, down here, and there, and adding those pant lines. Now one foot is facing us, so I'm going to draw those lines down here with the rainbow. The other leg is facing away from us, like so. I need to fix that leg just a little bit though. Like so. And then his arms are outstretched so they're touching both sides of the square. So I'm going to come out here, curve, 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 thumb up and down, mitten hand, back, curve, curve, thumb up and down, curve, curve into a mitten hand, curve, curve. So there is our Vitruvian Man. If you need to fix those feet a little bit, if they're a little bit too big, you can go ahead and do so. Kind of have a bad habit of drawing people with big feet on my pictures. And curve right there. All right, if you want to fix anything else on your picture, if you want to give them more realistic hair, you can go ahead and do so. But I am going to be leaving it like this for now. We'll hold off on those coloring steps in a bit because it'll be a lot easier when we have our other part of our picture cut out as well. So let's just go ahead. Actually, first what I'm going to have you do is you're going to outline your entire picture with your brown Sharpie. Now I'm using brown because my paper is a yellowish gold color and the Vitruvian Man was this ink sketch drawing and it's faded over time, so it looks a little bit more brown than black. But I'm just going to go ahead and outline everything on my picture. Again, you can draw this a picture of yourself. That is up to you. All right, now I'm going to come out here, down here, and there. Up and up right there. And then don't forget those arms, and you're going to add fingers as well to the hands. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And we'll do some more shading in just a little bit. I do want that general outline though around our figure because it'll be a lot easier if we do this already than when we start to color. So there is our Vitruvian Man right here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to cut him out. I'm going to follow along those lines as best as I can. And if there's any pencil lines that you don't want to see on your picture, now is a good time for you to erase it. But I'll probably erase once I'm done cutting them out. I'm getting as close as I can to those lines. And sometimes it's a little bit easier too if I just get close right like that and then get those little hard to reach areas later. Oops, let me just get right here so you can see. Alrighty, almost done cutting him out. Cut out his thumbs. If you are still drawing your Vitruvian Man, you can go ahead and press pause on the video. Just cutting him out can take a little bit of time. Just make sure you are following those lines as best as you possibly can. Alrighty. Alright, just about done with cutting him out. And then you won't forget the space between the legs as well. Again, don't forget any area that you need to get to. And up here. All right, and right here. And then we have our Vitruvian Man. This next part might be just even trickier than what we just did. So make sure your Vitruvian Man is completely cut out before we move on to the next part. Now this part might get a little bit awkward just because we do have a circle. We have to figure out a way to have our Vitruvian Man that looks like he's shouting for joy to fit inside that circle. So we have this piece of paper right here. And what we are going to do is we're going to be taking our paper, and if you have a square piece of paper and it works, you can do that. But I am just going to take my paper and I'm going to outline the bottom here and here and top right here. So it should look something like this. Let me just go ahead and zoom out a little bit so you can see. Oops, didn't get as close as I wanted to that circle. So let me try that once more. All right, so here is that. All right, so now we need to draw the Vitruvian Man again. This time his legs and arms are going to be standing out. What you are going to do though is you are going to be lining him up at the very bottom of your picture. And you're going to be drawing his head, shoulders, torso, and just to his torso. So what you're going to do is you're going to take this and we're just going to trace over those parts, but you're not going to trace over his arms or legs. Oh my goodness, but do make sure you are to the edge of your paper right here. So let me just erase and try that one more time. So again, my Vitruvian Man needs to be dead center and those fingertips need to be touching on the side right there, like so. So make sure he's like right directly in the middle, and then you can go ahead and start to outline your Vitruvian Man. And then I'm going to do that space between his legs over here. And again, make sure you're not tracing the legs quite yet. So it should look like this right now, because you're actually going to take this and you're going to move that hand up so it's at the corner right here. So now it looks like he's just about to do like a push-up on one arm. So you want to make sure that that's lined up with your circle here. And then I can trace over my hand here. And then you finish that line down there. And same with the other side right here. You're going to tilt him. Make sure that he is touching the edge of that circle and trace over that arm on the right. So there you've got your arms, making sure that he touches the bottom right there. And then also same with his legs. You want to make sure they scooted well out. So he's touching the bottom of that circle. And tracing over the legs. Now it might look a little bit awkward because those legs are super, super far out, and that's okay. Just make sure you are tracing, and now it's going to look like he's almost doing some jumping jacks. So there is my Vitruvian Man spread out like that. Alrighty, so now what we need to do is we're going to be drawing this Vitruvian Man again, trying our best to mimic the same style with first our pencil and then our Sharpie. So I like to just kind of line him up right here just to see where his head is. So I'm going to draw him right here. And his hair is right here. And neck right there. And you can have his hair actually in front of his shoulders, just because sometimes like when people have long hair, it blocks their arms. That's okay. I'm going to have his hair block that and curve right here. So again, I'm just eyeballing to see what looks best for my Vitruvian Man. And then curve here and here. And then draw my eyes. Again, just try your best to mimic that face as best as you can. And then those fingers, like so. So when you overlap it like so, it'll make it look like that you can't see his actual body, and all you can really see are his arms and legs. I think my leg went a little bit too high right there, so I'm going to just make quick adjustments right there. But take a look-see at your picture, see if there's any adjustments that you do need to make whatsoever, just because you do want to try and have this as even as possible. All right, so there is my picture right there. Awesome, I'm going to go ahead and outline him and just trace, so outline him, and then I'll cut him out. Now, if you can't see like the head, for example, okay, so let me start over saying that again. So his face is going to be blocking it right there. It's okay if it's not absolutely perfect. Just try your best to make sure that you're drawing him in those correct proportions. All right, and then we'll cut him out. So we'll have two Vitruvian Mans for our picture. Well, it's one man, but right now they're apart, so it's making them two. All right, so here is that. And then you can go ahead and start to cut him out. Just make sure you did get everything that you need. So I'm going to go ahead and cut him out. And then I can go in and start to fill in those details with colored pencil. So I'm getting as close as I can here. And right here. So just take that moment to cut him out of that circle. space right here. And don't be too hard on yourself if this is absolutely not perfect. Again, all that matters here at Fibo is that you try your best. All right. There's one around right here. Looks like he's dancing for joy that he's almost free from his circle. So here we go, almost done. This way will be a lot easier when both of them are cut out. We can color both of those areas at the same time. So now that I have my one that looks like it's jumping for joy, and then I have this one, if I were to overlap them, it looks like he's hiding right behind him, like so. All right, so now this is a good opportunity for us to clear off our scraps because we don't need to cut out any more paper anymore. So take that moment to kind of tidy up your area, see if there's anything else that you may have forgotten. But here is our Vitruvian Man. Right now, he's two separate beings. But we're gonna go ahead and just take out our colored pencils and just kind of add some nice little shading and highlighting to him. So I'm gonna go ahead and put my ruler to the side. Take this moment to erase any of those pencil lines that you may see on your paper. If you forgot to add like a foot or so, go ahead and add that. Because now what we're gonna do is we're gonna have them side to side, and we can go in and add the same details on our picture. So if I do the same on the left here with the hair, I'm gonna do the same on the right. And then I can start to add that shading. So for example, I'm gonna add some shading underneath my hair here and here. So again, whatever I do on my standing man, I'm gonna do the same on my jumping man right here. So that way it looks cohesive. I'm gonna add shading right here, down here, same on this side. Add some shading under the arms here and here, here, and here. It'll be the same on this side. And you can switch your browns if you would like to as well. I think that's a great idea actually, just to make sure that it looks nice and neat. So I can go here and add some knees. Again, we just want to make sure that this looks nice and neat. So if I add it here, if I add it here, like so. I'm going to switch up my browns a little bit just to give it some interesting color. Just so he looks a little bit more dimensional, not so flat. And make sure whatever you're adding to one man, you add it to the other. Or woman. You drew yourself. I could have drawn myself. But I decided to draw the Vitruvian Man. So again, make sure you're adding those specific colors. If you want to color in that shirt, you can. If you want to color in the hair, you can do that as well. But just take that moment to add that shading. You want to fill in those eyes a little bit. That is up to you. But we have just added some nice simple shading to our picture. One last thing that we are going to do is we're going to be adding some outlines to our shapes. So first of all, I am going to make sure everything's nice and neat, and I'm going to put them together. Now I need to find where their belly button is in just a bit, but they're next to each other. They're going to hang out with Vivo right here. And what I like to do, just to show the difference between my circle and square, is I like to get a big chunky brown marker, and I'm going to add an outline to the edge of my shape by just one long stroke. So it shows that my square is right there. This just helps to make it look a little bit neater. And I can always clean off any of that ink that gets on my table. So there's my square. Now it's got a nice little border. The circle will be a little bit of the trickier one, but that's okay. We just try our best. So I'm getting a lot of ink on my table, so I will have to definitely wipe that off when I am done. Like so. So that way it's easier to see that circle, especially when we put it against that background. Now also too, how the Vitruvian Man is set up is that we need to also add some lines into our picture. So for example, we're going to take our Sharpie. I think it's easier to use a Sharpie. And we're actually going to overlap our circle like so. So you can see some of those corners right here. I'm going to take this and add a line here and right there. And one here. Might be a little bit tricky to see, but you can see that there is my circle. So that way, when my circle is above like this, that line continues on like so. In fact, if you want to, you can also get that brown marker and make that brown line a little bit thicker here and here. And there is also a line here and right there. All right. Now, if you are not done shading your Vitruvian Man, maybe if you want to go back and touch up on any of those areas, you may go ahead and do so. Sometimes I find that maybe I think I'm done, but then I go through and find something else. But you can always go back and add some shading later. Because again, the main focus is that you have at least the arms and the legs done. So we need to make sure our Vitruvian Man is intact. We're going to get a brad. Now, brad is one of these doohickeys that look like it's a nail, but we're going to actually put that in place of the belly button. So if you have a large one or a small one, make sure you grab that. This is going to be also a tricky part. I keep saying that they're tricky parts, but this one's probably the most difficult part. You're going to find that belly button, and you're going to poke that belly button right into his navel. So we're going to go right here. But also too, you do have to make sure that everything is nice and neatly lined up. So this is probably going to be one of the trickier parts of our picture. So here is our Vitruvian Man with a circle. We're going to go right here. And this is where we're going to start poking a belly button through all four papers. So our circle, our square, our Vitruvian Man 1 and Vitruvian Man 2. So again, depending on the brad that you have, it might be a little bit too thin or too thick. So sometimes you might have to give like a little guide with a pencil. Just be careful not to rip your paper. Again, my brads are pretty small, so I have to be extra careful when I do this. So again, I'm going to take that, I'm going to poke that brad right through four pieces. Now, if that's tricky too, no worries. You can always just do it one at a time. So there's my Vitruvian Man's first set. Let's get it through. Sorry, I got to put a little bit close to me so I can see where it's going. Again, these brads are not too kind to me, actually. There we go. So there's the two. And then I can go in. Sometimes also it's a little bit easier to eyeball it and then take your pencil and see that it's right here. And then I can poke. My brads are a little bit too small, unfortunately, but I can still try my best. Because again, that's all that I ask for you guys here at Vivo. So I'm going to take that, poke that brad, but be careful not to poke your fingers. 3. And now you can see that it's starting to spin. And then we'll grab that. And find the middle of that. Oh my goodness, he's just so excited. He just wants to move around. We're going to find the middle right here. It's about right here. If you need help from mom or dad, I highly suggest doing so. So let me just try that again. He keeps moving. Makes it a little bit tricky, a little bit cumbersome. All right, so we've got this. Let me just flatten that out a little bit. Making sure that that is poking all the way through. Going through here. And moment of truth. There we go. So now I have poked it through all 4 pieces of that paper. With brads, there's, ooh, at least I thought I poked it through. Oh my goodness, my Vitruvian Man just doesn't want to hold still. Issue is the brad might be a little bit too bent. Let me just grab another one. Let me grab a fresh one. And this one's so small that it may not want to cooperate. So now that I have a hole through each of those pieces of paper, now it should be a lot easier. Again, don't ever hesitate to ask mom or dad for help. And there we go. Now my brad is perfectly in place. You just put that over, and there is our Vitruvian Man on our paper, like so. Alrighty, so he should be fitting inside of your circle and your square, like so. All right, once that is done, you're actually going to go back to your watercolor paper, and we're going to glue down our circle. So make sure that your Vitruvian Man is absolutely even on your paper. We're going to get our glue stick or Elmer's glue, and we are going to glue down this circle. You can also glue down your square if you want to. I'm just going to leave my square as is, though. I'm only going to glue down my circle. And I'm going to take that circle right to closer to the top and the edge right here. Because I want to leave some room on the bottom to write out my math equation. So that way he is spinning around and around. I did go a little bit uneven on his body right there, but that is okay. All right, so for our area of a circle and area of a square, we're going to be writing down this at the bottom. So let me just zoom in first here. With your pencil or a brown Sharpie, I'm just doing it with brown Sharpie. If you're confident enough, you can do that. What you're going to do is you're going to draw a circle right here with a slanted line. So it looks like I almost cut out a slice of pizza. Draw up, line down, and you're going to put a letter R right there. That's radius. And we're going to do the pi symbol, which is a straight line, and then straight line down, curve up, letter R, squared. And that is the area, A-R-E-A, of O-F, A, and then circle, C-I-R-C-L-E. L-E. We're just trying to mimic the Vitruvian Man. There are all sorts of different notes at the bottom, so our notes are just a little bit more simple. And then we also have a square on this side. So we got our square. Draw your curve on up and then down. Letter B, which is B times B, meaning that the base equals the height as well. And we're going to write area of a square, A-R-E-A, O-F for up, A, and then square is S-Q-U-A-R-E. Now again, once you're done writing that, if you find that maybe you need to go back and add any extra shading, any details to your Vitruvian Man, you can go ahead and do so. But that was our final step to our picture. So your Vitruvian Man should be able to twist and turn in his picture. But that was our final step for our picture. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you had a lot of fun learning about Da Vinci and his Vitruvian Man. Hope you really enjoyed this project without cutting out those different pieces of paper and knowing the difference between the area of a circle and the area of a square. And we will see you next time at Vivo Kids Art Academy. Please make sure to post these online. We would love to see them. And we'll see you very soon. Bye!